And joining us now on the program, he is the senior analyst, animal protein with Rabobank. Our good friend Lance Zimmerman is with us here today. Lance, good to catch up with you, sir. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I am. It's good to catch up with you before the holiday season really begins in earnest.
Definitely. I know it's creeping up on us here. It is just a little over a couple of weeks away. So I know we are definitely gearing up for the holiday season. And as we continue to get close to the end of the year, we got to start turning our attention to 2023, Lance. And I know Rabobank just released their global animal protein outlook for next year. Now, let's focus in on the beef side. I know that's your
Mhm.
wheelhouse. Talk about what you guys found in your research with this report. Sounds like maybe a little bit of contraction on the beef side next year.
Yeah, I think the general message is total protein supplies across the globe up, but beef production across the globe steady to weaker. And the U.S. is driving that trend, Jesse. As we look at it, and we've talked before, we're in 4 years of cow herd contraction, and eventually you have to pay that bill. We haven't had to yet. 2022 beef production will actually end up being a new record high, and in fact, the fourth consecutive record high in beef production for the U.S. But we've paid the piper enough through here. We've had some COVID-related disruptions that drug out that supply peak a little bit longer. As we go forward here, we're going to see some pretty significant declines in the U.S. beef production outlook as we look into next year. And basically, the type of declines we're talking about for next year will be significant enough that even if we have gains, as we anticipate in Australia and Brazil, and even to a certain extent Mexico, those gains won't be enough to offset the declines that are likely coming not just next year for the U.S., but really the next several years.
So what is the biggest driver? Is it drought? Is it just supply chain challenges? Is it cost of everything going up? Is it inflation? I mean, what is the biggest driver? Do you think we're going to see this continued contraction in the beef industry in the next year?
A lot of it's literally just allowing beef production to catch up with what's happened in the countryside. The cow calf producer, they really started liquidating after the 19 highs, but we never had a chance to realize it. In late 19, we had a packing plant fire. In 20, we had COVID back everything up. Even in 2021, we were liquidating so many heifers, and into 2022, let's not forget what's happened this past year. We've had so many heifers we brought into the supply chain and we didn't keep inside the pasture gates, so to speak, that it just takes a while. Then you layer in how extreme the drought has been really over the last 18 months and speeding up marketings. We went from a place where in 19 and 20, we slowed down marketings as supplies were still increasing and backed up everything to in 21 and 22, we really cleaned up all that mess and then sped up marketings from the cow calf side all the way through feedlots due to drought that we never really realized how many cows and calves were leaving the countryside. We're going to start to see that now. As we look at it, the very simple math that I like to tell everyone is expect that in the next year, we're going to lose more than 1 million head in cattle slaughter. And that means we're going to lose more than 1 billion pounds in beef production. Those are significant year over year declines when you think about it in the grand scheme of things.
Are you worried about the cost of feed when it comes to cattle going into next year as well? I know market volatility obviously has been a big issue, Lance.
Yeah, you're going to have to be. I mean, obviously, with the price trend that's been in the grain markets here over the last month or so, I think some of our fears are subsiding just ever so slightly. But I was in a meeting last week and I had to laugh. Somebody said, "Hey, I'm just trying to deal with all these black swans." When I told them, well, by the very nature of that definition, as many as we're seeing, I don't think black swans are as rare as they used to be. But you look at it and what's going on in the feed grain side of things, Jesse, none of the situation that created the forage and grain environment from a price standpoint that we're in today have subsided as we look ahead. We still have drought challenging supply issues. We still have the Russian Ukraine conflict. We still have to battle the energy markets for keeping our corn and soybean acres in check. We still are going to have supply chain disruptions, whether it's port issues, whether it's getting barges down the Mississippi, whether it's railroad issues. Hopefully, those become lesser of an issue going forward, but we're still going to have some disruptions to sort through. And of course, with high fuel prices, freight's not an option to move those hay acres where, or the hay production where we need to, or corn production where we need to. So the market for feedstuffs is going to remain high. And that's certainly a stressor as I look ahead to this market next year, not just in terms of what it means for cattle feeding margins, but also what it means for how quickly can we rebuild this cow herd going forward. It's not a 1 year fix and we're back on the upswing again. We're talking at least 2 years down the road, maybe 3 years down the road before we can even use the E word, expansion, in our vocabulary again.
Well, Lance, I know as well, on top of the 2023 protein outlook, the beef quarterly for quarter 4 just released from Rabobank as well. And it appears that a lot of the same points that you guys found in your research for 2023 are already kind of pointing to those already in the quarter 4 beef quarterly, it appears, Lance.
Yeah, for those of your listeners who are really honed in on what's going on in the beef markets, read the Global Protein Outlook. Then go, while you're there on the same website, the Rabo Research website, go grab the fourth quarter Beef Quarterly, and you're going to get a little bit deeper dive into all those things relative to the global beef market. And especially the feature article on that we have is focused on, I think the exact title is, as the US goes, so goes the world. So we really dive deeper into that idea I mentioned early on, that the decline that we're going to go through in the US is going to be so massive that's going to be hard for the other global players to offset it. And so we're going to go through a 4-5 year stretch where global beef supplies are likely to tighten. The U.S. is going to lead that initiative, and everybody else is going to follow along. And so when you think about that, it's not just supportive to prices in the U.S. There's quite a bit of optimism due to the supply decline that's happening here in terms of what it could mean for global prices as a whole.
Well, I know that website, research.rabobank.com. You could find both reports. Lance, before we run out of time, any final thoughts you have for us today?
No, I would just say to your listeners, thanks for the trust they place in us at Rabobank. I don't take my job lightly as our senior beef cattle analyst. If they have any questions, reach out to their Rabobanker, reach out to me in person. Love to talk the markets, love to talk what's going on in the cattle business, and happy holidays, everyone.
Well, and again, you can find the details research.rabobank.com. And we appreciate the time. Happy holidays to you as well, sir, with that Lance Zimmerman, senior analyst, animal protein with Rabobank. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jesse.